So the first thing I want to talk to you about is, the first thing you come across when you start looking into Crafter CMS is it being Git-based, right? You mentioned it a few times around the website. What is a Git-based CMS and what makes it different?
Russ, you want to take that?
Sure. Well, a Git-based CMS is a CMS that uses Git as its repository for content. There's a variety of them, but at the fundamental level, any CMS that uses Git as the storage and versioning system for content is a Git-based CMS.
Yeah, and I think it's important to distinguish what we do with Crafter CMS versus many other Git-based CMSs. Git is great for managing any type of file, right? So source code files for software development being the obvious use case, but it is gaining traction, and people have recognized you can store static web content as well, right? HTML files, CSS files, etc. And many Git-based CMSs are just that. They just use Git to store static web content, and that's fine. You get all the benefits of Git, sophisticated versioning, get native integration with GitHub or GitLab, right? But that's not that's kind of a minimal use case, right? With Crafter, we use Git in a much more sophisticated way to store content that's authored, that's stored as XML files, and relationships among those files, and as well as static content like CSS, as an example, as well as all other artifacts for any type of digital experience. And then from our authoring platform, which is built around Git and its distributed repository, the authoring platform enables all types of feature development, branching, the sophisticated versioning, auditing, rollback. So a lot of cool content management features for more complex digital experiences, not just static content that the simple Git-based CMSs use. So we use Git in a much more sophisticated way. Took a couple of years of integration, so we learned a lot by integrating the Git-based library into Crafter. And now our customers and our open source community users are benefiting from all the advantages of Git as the content management system. And from the authoring platform, we publish that out to a separate content delivery system where the APIs on top of that Crafter engine are used by developers to build any type of digital experience application, websites, mobile apps, IoT, Alexa, you name it. And the APIs that we have on top of that system provide both JSON, XML responses up to the developers. So the developers aren't constrained in any way by Git. They get a robust set of APIs, REST APIs, GraphQL APIs, free marker templating APIs, in-process Java APIs if you want. And so on that delivery side, there is no Git. It's just the content that's published out, and Crafter Engine takes care of merging, caching, and lots of other cool stuff, and provides a robust set of APIs for developers to build their apps.
Okay.
Yeah, I was going to kind of say, I think one of a better kind of question, or a follow-on question, really, I think it's important to define what a Git-based CMS is. But then the question is, why a Git-based CMS? Why are people interested in it, right?
That wasn't going to be a follow-up question, so you beat me to it. Go for it.
Yeah, I think that's where it really gets interesting. I mean, obviously, it starts with, hey, we're familiar as developers with Git for managing source code, like Mike said, and it's the way that the versioning system works, the way that we can work in a distributed fashion. We can create diffs. We can have development process where we have branching and segregation of features and things like that. Developers recognize, that hey, this stuff is really valuable for not just source code but also content. and potentially even content authors, if it can be made simple enough that they don't have to think about Git mechanics, that they can just get the benefits of Git and the workflow that Git provides on top of the versioning. So I think that's where you start to see people starting to use Git as their repository. Hey, can we get the benefit of branching? Can we get the benefit of versioning, but not just simple versioning like we're used to in the content management world, which is like a stack of files, but versioning that is a snapshot in time, right? I want to see what the state of every object in my repository was at that moment in time. That's Git versioning versus what content managers have been forced to see as a version, which is what is this particular file's version over time. And then, like Mike said, what we see as a value that Crafter adds is, okay, Git obviously from a backend, from a process perspective, adds a lot of value, but most CMSs are just using it in that simple content management way, like to manage files. You've got to deliver that content as an API or rendered content, and Crafter adds that whole layer on top on the delivery and development side as well. So, it's interesting, and I think it's a trend that we're just going to see more and more CMSs that are interested in Git and Git-like mechanics.
And I think it's important also to distinguish Git-based CMS from the traditional database-oriented CMS.
Yes.
Right. So, what are the advantages of Git versus a database when that's what's backing your content management system? Mm-hmm. And because Git is a naturally distributed repository, and that both the developers and content authors can collaborate on top, right, with their workflows, their processes, content authors authoring content, reviewing content, creating experiences, without having to know what's all the underlying mechanics, right, of Git. Every time they save as a draft or publish or do any type of editing operation, that's automatically stored in Git. They never know that, but that whole history is there, right? All the versioning, and then the branching, that's taken care of, and the developers can get in there and can collaborate as they're working on features that combine with new content items that are being developed. So that collaboration is much more seamless than a database-oriented CMS. But then when you talk about multiple environments, right, in complex digital experience development, you got the production environment, you may have a staging environment, a QA environment, a development environment, and then all the way down to the developer machines. And in a database-oriented CMS, you've got all the database synchronization and silos in each of those environments, whereas Git naturally just breaks down all of those barriers. So getting content from production down to the developer machines is a simple Git pull. Pushing code up to higher environments is a simple Git operation as well. So the collaboration and the productivity of both teams, the content teams and the DevOps teams, is dramatically increased. So we talk all about this technical details and specifics. At the end of the day, what our users care about is getting their job done faster, right? They can innovate quicker, they can collaborate, they break down the barriers, the traditional bottlenecks that they've struggled with for 20 years with traditional CMSs, and that's what Crafter's bringing to the table.
Yeah. I can give you another use case, just real quick, an example. I think people like that, right? So I just got off a call with a customer who needs to create content that is basically secret, for some period of time. It's embargoed, not just from the world, but from other parts of the company. You can see obvious use cases there are things like HR and, and company organizational announcements. But a lot of times we also see like product launches and things that are, very compartmentalized. And in this case, the Git-based approach really offers a capability where an author can, a group of authors, a small group of authors can branch the live site, work in their own branch. Over time, they can bring changes from production into their branch to make sure that the work that they're doing is properly, congruent with that work. And when that feature or when that announcement is ready, they just merge that stuff down. Now, in the traditional world where you've got, just a database underneath your CMS, how do you do that? How is it done?
Yeah.
It's maybe I'm going to have 2 sites and I'm going to double.
Yeah, you would. You'd have to have 2 sites, right? The staging site.
Copy paste, right? So we want to get away from all that wasted time and energy, and especially if this is part of your business. Let's say let's say you're a company that releases music, right? You're working on like the titles that are coming up. You don't want to leak those announcements, or it could be a game company, or you just come up with ideas where this is something that you do all the time. It's part of what you do. Then the system needs to be able to do it, and it needs to be simple, painless, and easy.
Perfect. That was really good. Those are good examples. That's great. Now, the CMS space is never complete without buzzwords, right? And again, browsing your website, come across a new one, and I think it really is a new one. Dev Content Ops, right? And I saw you also launched devcontentops.io, which is like a whole publication, just explaining and describing and giving out sort of free information sort of around this topic. So Dev Content Ops is obviously started off as DevOps, and content is now been introduced there. Did you coin this term? Why did you coin this term? And what is Dev Content Ops? Start there, I guess.
Yep. Yeah, certainly. We did coin it based on what we were seeing with our customers. And when we released Git as our underlying repository with version 3 of Crafter a couple years ago, we did that based on customer needs, customer feedback. And it was those processes I was talking about before of that traditional CMSs were failing at, the enabling seamless collaboration between the content teams and the developer teams when they need to work together, and then when they don't need to work together, when they're working in parallel, to be able to do so without stepping on each other's toes. So all of those bottlenecks and the silos of Git really enabled a whole new set of workflow and processes and overall improvement in productivity. And really it comes down to on the development side, right? You've got DevOps, right? Release early, release often, continuous integration, continuous delivery of software features. And that for content managed applications really wasn't addressed because you've got the traditional CMS being the bottleneck, right? Putting up barriers between the developer DevOps teams and the DevOps tooling and the content management processes and the content management system tooling. So it was a natural integration of those DevOps and all the benefits of that, bringing that to the content management teams, the content operations. So in our view, Dev Content Ops is an extension of DevOps and all the benefits you get of DevOps extended to content managed applications, taking CI/CD processes and including content authoring and content publishing continuously, right, on a continuous basis, because that's where, again, the benefits of content management is you take the same type of benefits you see with software development that DevOps has brought in terms of higher quality, much faster responsiveness, time to market, time to value, and doing that for your large-scale website, for your mobile apps, for all these content-rich digital experience applications. So that's kind of summarizes a lot of the benefits of Crafter and our underlying Git-based repository. And now we're seeing that. We launched devcontentops.io because it's a very interesting topic, right? It's always been, just like the tool's been siloed, the teams have been siloed. So now content teams, content management, marketing, talking to DevOps, and kind of understanding at some level the technologies and the integrated processes is what we're bringing with that.
Cool. Russ, anything to add to that?
I think it's a pretty good summary, to be honest.
Yeah, I think it was,
the only thing I guess I would add to it is when we talk about continuous, maybe some technical details. So what is that all about? Well, what we're trying to do is add the ability to automate all these this seamless working environment, right? And how do we do that? We do that with Git mechanics, and we do that with APIs. And that's why we think we have one of the things that gives Crafter an advantage at Dev Content Ops, because we have Git-based mechanics that make it easy to sync repositories and distribute repositories, and we're API across both the delivery, like a lot of other headless CMSs, but also APIs on the authoring side for everything that we can do from an authoring and content management perspective, which means that we've got all the right tools to automate and make this CI/CD process that involves not just features but also content a reality.
Okay, yeah, that tops off the comprehensive summary of that. So that's really interesting. I suppose if anyone wants to learn more about that, then devcontentops.io is a good place to go to learn more about the concept and just the benefits and how it actually I think it's just the benefits in general. I want to zoom out a little bit. I talk about the headless CMS space as an industry, headless CMS as a term, what it means, what you guys think it means, how you guys see other headless CMSs, and how you see Crafter in the space. I know, again, looking at some of your content, you haven't just, plunked CrafterCMS in the headless CMS landscape and said, yeah, we're headless too. You consider Crafter to be different from that perspective, from an architectural standpoint, to be truly decoupled, whereas maybe some other headless CMSs in your view are not truly decoupled. So let's talk about that. Talk to me about what's decoupled, what isn't, who is, who isn't. Let's jump in.
Yep. Well, I could take the decoupled part because that's kind of a pet peeve of mine, that when I see these headless vendors talking about being decoupled. Going back to traditional CMS architectures, decoupled always meant your content authoring system was decoupled from the content delivery system. So in contrast to that, you have a coupled system. And examples there would be like Drupal or WordPress, where the app and the database and the content authoring interface, content management interface are all coupled together. They're in a stack. They're in a monolithic stack, right? Whereas a traditional enterprise CMSs, and that's where we play. We're positioned as an enterprise CMS that mid to large enterprises or startups that need to scale quickly and reliably, and is the target market for Crafter. So for those enterprise use cases, a decoupled architecture has traditionally been used because it has many benefits. Security, the ability being one, because it's much harder to get from your content delivery system all the way back into your enterprise because of that decoupling. But there's other benefits as well. Scalability, management, DevOps associated with that elastic scalability. So several benefits of that. And so when we talk about headless CMS, it's not decoupled. Decoupled means authoring separate from delivery. And then in our case, both platforms, authoring and delivery, are headless platforms. So they're API first. Yeah. And on top of those, on the authoring platform, we have a content authoring tool set that runs on top of our APIs, but you can plug in other front-end authoring tools in there as well and integrate to other systems, compose authoring experiences easily. And on the delivery side, you can build the digital experience apps on top of the headless system. So whereas traditional, the kind of simple headless vendors that say decoupled, what they mean is just on the delivery side that the digital experience app is decoupled from the content delivery system, and that's not really decoupled. That's just headless. In
the sense that they just don't give you anything, and it's like we're headless because we just don't give it to you, and okay, fair enough.
So when we say headless, we mean headless authoring, headless delivery in a decoupled architecture, and then we talk about headless plus because we don't stop there. On the delivery side, where you want to craft a variety of different digital experiences, we support a variety of additional features that developers need. And then on the authoring side as well, we have sophisticated content authoring tools for headless applications. So Russ can elaborate on the headless, the plus part of headless plus for Craft.
Yeah, good for us.
So it starts with, like Mike said, it starts with API first across the entire breadth of the functionality, authoring and delivery. On the delivery side, we also feel that if you're going to really fit into an enterprise where there's existing systems, existing things, you've got to integrate with lots of things, you need control over the shape of the API on the delivery side as well, right? You need to be able to make that API look and feel however you need it to look and feel for the thing that's consuming the content. So we have a variety of mechanisms for that, from things that are somewhat flexible in terms of the shape of the API, the response format is what we mean by shape, like GraphQL. Like GraphQL gives us a certain degree of freedom over what the API looks like when somebody comes and asks for content. But we also have the ability to completely write your own APIs, script the response in with any format that you want, and also potentially integrate with other services. Some mid-sized organizations don't have like these really mature architectures where they've got places to do integration and they just need a layer to do integration, and we can handle that in the CMS if that's all you've got. And a good example would be, hey, I want to do personalization. So a really mature organization might have they might have personalization services, and they might have content services, and then they have an orchestration layer which combines content and personalization. Well, that's awesome if you're Fortune 1000 company or maybe 500 company that has that capability. But you might be a mid-sized organization who says, hey, I want to do personalization, but I don't have that layer. So Crafter then can be, hey, we're serving the content. We know who the user is. You can write some personalization rules in us, and we can personalize that content for you. So we can be that layer.
Okay.
And that's really important. So that's part of Headless Plus. Another big thing is a lot of headless CMSs, they started with the premise of, well, we don't know what the presentation tier is. So therefore, we can't present the content in any other way than like simple forms or spreadsheet style editing.
Yeah.
And so that's what authors have now, is content forms and spreadsheets to enter content into, which is horrible, right? So what
Are you saying that's not enough, Russ?
What's that?
Are you saying that's not enough?
It's not enough. I mean, well, it's really bad if you've spent the last 20 years, growing up in CMS where the whole thrust has been in context editing,
exactly,
drag and drop, and all of a sudden now it's like it's gone. Yeah. And you say like, well, this isn't good for me, and the developers say, yeah, but that's okay because I can use React now. I can use Angular.
That's right.
It's good for me, and the heck with you. So we're all about all the constituents, authors and developers, and we need to bring them together. So great, developers need to be able to use React, Angular, Vue, Flutter, whatever, and authors need to be able to drag and drop and edit their content in context. And so we've built a platform that lets them do that, a UI, what we call Experience Builder, that lets them have that back. And the last piece of it is Headless Plus is really just this idea that, okay, we are a headless platform. You can pull the content in a presentationless way, but a large majority of what we serve is web pages. Sorry, that's the case. That's the reality. And guess what? Web pages, public websites, do perform better, and both from a page performance, browser rendering performance perspective, and from an SEO perspective, if they're server-side rendered. So a true sort of headless plus platform in our perspective needs to be able to do pure headless, client-side rendered, server-side rendered content, even SPAs, so things, basically Next and Nuxt and so on, to render applications that are built headlessly, but then rendered on the server side. So the developers get their benefits, but then the SEO engines and the page performance gets its benefits. And the last thing is, static site generation. You should be able to do that too. It's not the answer for every website. It's not the answer for big websites, but it's a great answer for smaller things, and why not? So you should be able to render it in all of those contexts. and that's
that includes HTML templated sites as well.
right.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, it's interesting because, those sort of, I've always referred to them as sort of pure headless CMSs, right? Where they spit out that content in a spreadsheet form. Their argument for that always was, well, this will allow you to be the most flexible, right? Whereas in reality, it just restricts and it just stops marketers or non-technical people from being able to do anything with that content.
Yeah,
So,
the way I see it is, it's a very large market. Right? Everybody has a website. Everybody needs a CMS. Every enterprise has many websites and digital experience applications. So there's certainly for the certain use cases, a basic forms-based interface is fine, right? But for enterprise use cases, again, for those mid to large enterprises, startups that need to scale, they need something much more sophisticated.
Yeah. And actually, Mike, I love that idea. I mean, you bring that up a lot, and I really appreciate it because I think of it as innovate even inside of an organization, right? Again, we deal with pretty big organizations, and inside of an organization, you've got fast moving startups inside that organization, one department that's highly innovative and moving fast, and and they're willing to have like an interface with that's a little bit more clunky that lets them get that one thing done, that one mobile application that they need to develop. They get that done and get it out the door. But at the same time, they have a department that's managing their website, and they're only going to be efficient if they can see and edit their content in context. And so,
yes,
I agree. The market is huge, and you've got all these different players, and you might find a company that can go with one CMS that can do just one thing, but it's also good to have a CMS that can say, "Oh, you're that department that represents that one little segment of the market. Well, you can do this too in our system." And we also have these capabilities.
That's where you need to support the basic headless use cases. And the vast majority of our clients are larger enterprises, multiple different use cases, and they use Crafter across all of those. So we run the transactional e-commerce or D2C site. We run the marketing site. We run microsites. We run mobile apps. We run intranets and extranets and customer portals, digital signage. I mean, the use cases are growing, which is the traditional headless, the benefit of a headless platform, right? You can build all these different types of digital experiences, and that's our market. But if you just got a one simple use case, and the authoring is not that important, or server-side rendering is not that important, then there's certainly a place for other CMSs.
Okay, and speaking of sort of building different experiences, something else that Crafter has launched recently is a marketplace. And again, another trend I'm seeing, lots of headless, or not lots, but some headless CMSs sort of launching marketplaces, launching sort of plugin repositories in one way, shape or form. What's driving that trend, do you think? I think a lot of what you just said is very relevant. I'm looking at your marketplace right now, actually, just to give listeners an insight. So things like social media widgets, YouTube integrations, different forms of YouTube integrations, forms, super important, obviously. What's driving this? Is this like customers asking you for these types of things and they get built? How does it all come together? What's driving the marketplace?
Yeah. Well, everyone wants low code, no code, don't want to develop anything, right? Compose experiences, drag and drop. So that part of it is really nothing new. What's new for us with version 4, which we're just releasing now as we speak, is a pretty sophisticated plugin framework and plugin management system, and that's kind of the basis for supporting a marketplace of a variety of plugins and also blueprints. So in our marketplace, we've got like 2 categories of things. Mm-hmm. Blueprints are kind of pre-developed strawman type websites or digital experience applications. Examples: we've got an Alexa device integration. We've got a retail website. We've got a commerce tools e-commerce application. example application that we work with Commerce Tools on, just as a couple examples. And then we got plugins, which are more components, right? There are things like you just mentioned, a YouTube player integration or a social media widget. The important thing there is we've got with version 4 now, a sophisticated plugin framework to manage those and to avoid all of the plugin nightmares that other CMSs have had, right? WordPress, Drupal being some obvious examples where they just, every upgrade from any version is just a nightmare because of incompatibility of plugins. So we're eliminating all of that going with our plugin framework. So we kind of really thought it through and how do we manage plugins and upgrades and future versions of those. So we got that foundation in place. And then you've got the developers that want to create components once, reuse them, and then give that capability to the authors to be able to drag and drop and build experiences, compose experiences without a lot of code development. So that's the basis, and that's a big part of our roadmap going forward.
Right, and you said the word roadmap, so I was going to ask you what's on that roadmap for the rest of the year. You mentioned as well version 4. What else can we expect? What's going to be happening soon with CrafterCMS?
Well, Russ manages our roadmap, so
there you go.
You got the right guy here.
We're going to continue to make incremental improvements on some of the big pieces that we've just released. So I think we've got a thing like Experience Builder, which itself has its own roadmap. We're going to continue to focus on some of those things. We've got a brand new dashboard capability coming on the way, where it's much more configurable. We've sort of changed the style of it, not just the look and feel, but our approach to dashboarding. We've got APIs behind that are going to let you build your own dashboards. This dovetails directly into this kind of plugin conversation that we're having, which is part of the plugin system is that you can build not just delivery plugins, but you can build authoring plugins. Well, we've got some great API capability that we build in the back end, and we're building a whole dashboard framework, and then you can plug in your own dashboards. So I think it's going to be great. We're also making some, we want to extend the concept of dev content ops into the dashboard space, right? We want people to be able to see their productivity in or authoring and in the rate of innovation from the features coming up, make that more visible. So dashboards is a big piece of it. We're also going to be investing in, some things that are kind of workflow oriented, like tasks and so on. So, just more features. There's a thing called a trash can, so that we can kind of get into like feature by feature perspective. But we're basically just gonna, continue to invest in fundamental features and also just more and more plugins. Right? We got this plugin framework. It's awesome, authoring and delivery capabilities. And now we can invest a lot of energy in that runs alongside the product at its own pace. And it really gives the customers and the users of Crafter the ability to assemble their own needs, because we can't imagine what they're going to need, right? But they can say, okay, I don't need to bring along the kitchen sink. I don't need this heavy monster monolithic thing. I can just pull the pieces that I need into my projects. And there's one technical detail about the marketplace that I want to bring up. And that is that when you install these plugins, they install not into the product, the installation. They install into your project. And there's a key difference there, because almost every other plugin, marketplace, framework, or whatever, you're basically bolting on the code into the installation server, whatever you want to call it. And so, like, if you take that content out of that server and you move it to another server, it has the content that requires the plugin, but not the plugin.
Right, yeah.
It's kind of a problem, and it's kind of a pain. What we do is we actually install the plugin into the project. And so when I dev content ops that project around to different environments, well, I get my project. So imagine I'm a company that has a project that has a lot of plugins installed. Now I get a new developer or a team of new developers, and I bring them in, and I'm like, hey guys, got to set up your environment. With most CMSs, you'd be like, oh God, what plugins do I need to install in order to make this thing work? What a nightmare. It's not a problem with Crafter. You download the vanilla thing, you go to the create site screen, create site from Git repository, click, boom. Bring down all your content into your local environment and all the plugins, and boom, you're up and running, and it's like that. So I'm super excited about that, and I know it's like a technical detail, but it like makes me happy. So
I think most WordPress users, that will like shock them that it's even possible. That something like that is even possible,
right? Yeah,
rather than manually uninstalling and reinstalling everything, and trying to figure out what's broken. Yeah.
And like WordPress, Drupal, others, a lot of CMSs are open source, and that we are open source at the core as well. And so when we get contributions in the past, it's been features, bug fixes sometimes that'll give us a pull request into our GitHub. But now with the plugin framework and the public marketplace, our community, which includes partners, we got about 20 certified partners, ranging from Capgemini down to small boutique shops. Great set of partners on a global basis, as well as our customers and open source community users. When they want to add a new feature that's not core to the product, they can always give us a pull request. We're always looking at contributions as an open source project, of course, but the plugin framework provides a higher layer where they can contribute to the product and can customize, specialize a use case, whether it's a blueprint or a plugin component, either on the authoring side or on the delivery digital experience side, and contribute that to the public marketplace. So it provides a much more seamless and effective way to contribute to the open source project as well.
Okay.
And you are saying another key word, Mike, which is the public marketplace. And there's something else. When you say public marketplace, it implies there's private marketplace capability. And again, think about our audience. But our audience is, audience is enterprises, and enterprises love plugins, but they also say, hey, well, we'd like to bless those plugins, and we'd also like to create our own plugins, but unlike you, who's an open source company, and you like to share everything with the world, we don't. We build our own secret sauce, and we don't want to share it with the world. So, marketplace is fundamentally a service that can be stood up and run on any number of marketplaces. So, private marketplace.
I see.
Yeah, and that's an enterprise feature, right? We have CrafterCMS Community, the open source version. CrafterCMS Enterprise is what we sell to customers and the support that goes along with it. And those customers get the benefit of the private marketplace capability.
All right. Interesting. Okay. Amazing. I learned a whole lot in this, so thank you both for your time.
Yeah.
If people want to continue this conversation with either one of you, where's the best place to go? Obviously the websites, maybe Twitter, maybe email.
Yeah. We're at Crafter_CMS on Twitter. CrafterCMS on LinkedIn, so a little bit on Facebook. We don't do too much on Facebook, mostly focus on LinkedIn and Twitter with our content. So feel free to engage us there, or send us an email at mike.vertal@craftercms.com.
Okay, amazing. Thank you again both for your time. Hopefully have you on again soon for more updates.
Thanks for having us, Kaya. It's been great. Thank you.
Thank you.